Let's get started here. Of course, we are waiting for one other panelist, Brother Chris, and I know he's on his way. But in the meantime, we're just gonna open up with a few things so we can all kind of be on the same page. Is that all right? We all right? Okay. First, I just want to say greetings, Hotep, peace to all those who are here with us. And I know there are those who are on their way, and there are those who may be joining us online. So we do have an online playing of this right now. So if those who are maybe not able to get here, of course you can let them know they can go to bvnnews.bvn.news. So if they would like to join, this is a live broadcast. And we want to thank Brother Carl and Black Video News Network for this opportunity to share this with a larger audience. Now, first, in our tradition, we have a couple of things that we always want to do. And one, and first, is to ask permission to begin. Normally, this is something that we, of course, ask our elders. Our elders are those who have loved us, provided for us, shared, and raised us up. So in a tradition, we ask their permission to speak and go forward with a program. So we're honored to have Miss Nettie Hinton here, who is definitely one of our elders. If we have anyone over 85, raise your hand. All right, there you go. She's the elder. So, Miss Nettie Hinton, do we have permission to begin?
Do proceed.
Thank you very much, ma'am. All right. And I think it's important, family, that we take the opportunity always to raise up those who are our elders and those who have really kind of guided us and put us on the right path to doing the right thing. Also, I want to acknowledge the fact we do have refreshments, family, so please partake of the refreshments. We also have, right outside the door here to your right, restrooms. Also, I ask that if you have your phone, because I know we all have these phones now, if you can silence the phones, if you have to take an emergency call, please just step outside. We appreciate it. All right? Now, with that, I want to say on behalf of Dream Voice and Melanized Media, we just want to welcome you to the historic Carver Library. Do y'all know where y'all at? This is the Carver Library. Historic. This library goes back to the 1930s, actually to 1918, but to the 1930s. And this was not the original location. I think it came over here about 1974, 73. But this is historic. And if you're not familiar with the history, once you step outside the door here to your left, they have pictures and information about the history of this library. So please take advantage of that. Now, with that said, I also wanted to extend a warm welcome from the Carver Library, because this is also a home for our cultural community here in San Antonio. Plus, this is managed by Dr. D.L. Grant, who is our true brother and friend, and he makes this space available for us. So we just want to thank Dr. Grant and the Carver Library and the staff here for hosting this event. Is that right? Come on, give a hand. There you go, family. Good job. Yes. Yes, ma'am. And then, just an introduction. Talk Black. Today is going to be our Black business focus. And really, this is the first of a series of conversations that we want to have where we as a community come together and have dialogue with each other and talk about our experience as Black people here in San Antonio. This is the kind of conversation that should be open, and we should be open and honest and really try to share those experiences that we have had that we all may learn and grow from each other. Are y'all all right with that? So in this dialogue, of course, we're going to have our panelists, but also we're going to have our community, those who are present in the room and those who may be online. So we want to have a dialogue centered around Black business development, the experience here in San Antonio. So that's going to be our conversation. We're going to try to stay on that path, all right? Now, with that said, I also want to just acknowledge the fact that, let me introduce myself. My name is Andar Ma'at. I am the am the co-founder of Melanized Media. Of course, my brother Born Logic, Allah in the back there, he's a co-founder with me. But Melanized Media, we're an independent black-owned film company, educational company here in San Antonio, Texas. Now, I'm gonna ask a few questions, and I just wanna see a show of hands. Now, we produced and released a film in 2018 titled Walk on the River, A Black History of the Alamo City. How many people have seen the film? Okay. See that, Brother Logic? All right. We also are the creators and the curators for the Black History Bus Tour. How many people have been on the bus tour? All right. Now, all I'm going to say, family, is this. If you have not seen the film, if you have not been on the bus tour, and you're interested in learning about the Black history of San Antonio, I encourage you to please come out and see the film. On September the 29th, we're going to have a re-release of the film. So please put it on your schedule. You can take out your phone, put it on your phone. But the idea, family, come out and see the film. And then we're going to have a bus tour coming up. So please, if you want to learn more and you want to be in the company of people that really want to learn together, then join us for the film and the bus tour. Are y'all with me? So the next time we ask this question, at least with all the people in here, all the hands should go up, all right? Okay, all right then. We on the same page. And then the last thing, well, two other things I want to do very quickly, because I think my time is ready. This is, how many people know what month this is? Black Business Month. August. Also is Black August, right? So how many people are familiar with the history of Black August? Okay, all right. Black August, since the 1970s, have been a commemoration and a raising up and remembrance of the Black struggle for freedom here in America. All right? So when we look at Black August, we're looking at some very significant events that have taken place in August and some amazing people who have stood up for us in August. Now, in 1619, it is recorded that the first enslaved Africans were brought to America in 1619 in August. Y'all know that, right? But also, it was in 1791 what took place. The Haitian Revolution. That was our struggle for freedom in Haiti. Now I'm gonna just go through this very quickly, because then, if you're not familiar with what I'm saying, I just encourage us to learn together, all right? So in 1831, we had the Nat Turner Revolt. Y'all know that, right? And then this is the birth month of Marcus Messiah Garvey, Fred Hampton, and also it's the death of George Jackson. Did y'all know that? And Emmett Till. This is the month that they were killed. Okay, let me move on, family. All I'm saying is that if we don't know, let us learn, because this history is very much connected to the history of us here in San Antonio, because we're a world people. Y'all know that, right? Okay. And then, as my sister said, this is also Black Business Month. So Black Business Month has been going on since like the early 2000s. And it's an opportunity for us to raise up Black businesses, to acknowledge them, and to support them. So I'm saying all that is really sets the foundation for what we're going to have here today. Because we're going to talk about our past, our present, but also our future. And the last thing I'll say in history, and that is on August 28th, 1963, what took place, family? August 28th, 1963. The March on Washington for jobs, justice, and freedom. Okay, so y'all feel, see, y'all, and Miss Nettie Hinton was there. See, y'all making me feel like that teacher that y'all don't want to listen to. But that's okay. because I done said my piece. You take it and you do whatever you want to with it, all right? But I wanted to say that because we must always be standing on a history, standing in history, building for the future. We should always raise up our ancestors and honor them, because as we honor our ancestors, hopefully our children will honor us. Because one day, all of us are going to be ancestors. Y'all know that, right? Okay. Now, with that said, last thing I'm going to say, and we're going to bring up my brother, and that is Brother Show had reached out to us and had brought this idea up about Talk Black. And I thought it was an amazing idea, brother. And I see slowly but surely it's coming together. But I think it's important that we always take time to honor those who are and raise up those who are doing good work in our community. So in this time, I want y'all to give a hand to my brother, Brother Show.
Chickened out from mentioning my full name, though. Okay, come on. Let's say it.
Brother Shukari Napodia.
Thank you. There we go. Brother. Now, I've been a fan of these two brothers. Logic, come on, man. Let people see you. This is always on the background. Come on, come up here, man. Come on, get your applause as well. They're doing incredible things for the city, and very proud to have you as partners for this event. Brother Logic. Yeah? Thank you. Thank you so much. So, just quickly, that was a lot. There's a lot of food. We expected this place to be packed out, and we're a little disappointed now, but we're not going to stop. We have to figure out some sort of synergy within the African American and Black community in San Antonio, and we're going to get started today. And I assure you, give it a year, give it 2 years, and you're going to have a packed hall full of African American, Black. My brother Bill there from Jamaica is the DJ. Round of applause for Bill as well. We want to reintroduce ourselves to ourselves, right? So Bill as the DJ here, but his actual real life work is right up the street here. He's been here no, you guys have moved, right? But used to be at Walton. Manufacturing is here. Walton for how many years now? Still, and he's kept his accent. You hear that, right? So growing up in Nigeria, I remember hearing the song, the James Brown song, "I'm Black and Proud," say it loud, "I'm Black and Proud." And I used to wonder, what the hell is that? I mean, why does it make a difference, right? Why couldn't you be if you're any color, why wouldn't you be proud of that color? And quite honestly, even at that young age, I thought it was we all loved the beat and we all danced to that music, but say it loud, "I'm Black and Proud." It's like, why are we saying this? Why are we singing this? The second thing I wanted to bring about is when we set this up, Facebook posts a couple of people, individuals who are not actually here today, who I respect and actually really care for, reached out to me and said, how come there's no San Antonian amongst the panel, right? How come there's no San Antonian? And I thought that was odd as well, because it took me a couple of days to figure out what they meant by that. And so I said, wow, so I'm not even San Antonian yet. And I've been here for 20 years. And then the third thing I want to bring up is the fact that I had the misfortune of listening to someone in my team and we didn't extend an invitation, but we accepted the presence of Rachel Dolezal. This is a white lady who said she was identified as Black and was part of the NAACP in Spokane. Anyway, basically a professor, went to Howard, the whole 9 yards, right? Maybe a very, 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 very light-skinned Kamala, right? So I had some sisters come up to me and basically say, why have you done this show? You kind of destroy what Dream Week is. Why are you bringing this woman here? And I spoke to Brother Salas about this as well. For me, it was that from where I come from, and I have a sister here, Nigerian sister, Dukwe, as well on the panel. No one like Rachel will be considered black, ever. She'll be accepted as part of the tribe. She might even speak the language and be honored, but she will never be black, ever. In fact, we only have what? Chinese, Indian, white, and black. Those are the four. You have to fall into one of those. So some of you here who are black are obviously Indian in Nigeria, and Chinese as well. I don't see any Chinese person. But you know what I mean. So in that sense, the way we think about black for many, 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 many years has been very African American centric. There's a difference between somebody coming to your house and taking over and somebody else coming to pick someone in your house and taking them away. The ownership of that environment called Nigeria was completely, I mean, you had a degree, my father's generation, you were going to be very successful. It's as basic as that in the entire nation. You had a doctorate, you're probably going to be running the country. And this is really, what, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, not that long ago. So, in saying this, I want out of all of this to come up with the fact that I don't think that even now we'll be able to decide what this idea of blackness is necessarily, but we have to admit that it's very complex. And it's a lot of it. So if, like Brother Carl here, when I first moved to San Antonio, he invited me to his office and actually gave me a space in his office just down this road. We had a little bit of a falling out, and I think we've forgiven each other, right? But basically, I think ultimately, when we both look back at it, we were both black and are still black. And that's what the connection is. We couldn't. And he, just philosophically, I wanted to do something that would promote this idea of MLK's vision for today. But Carl says he wanted something to do with pushing what black America was, what it was to be black. And he has maintained up to today. He's kept it consistent. There's kind of an archive of what it is to be black in San Antonio. This man is amazing for doing that, and I respect him a lot for that because I know how difficult it is. But in a sense, too, we have to say, we as ambassadors of blackness, do we necessarily even need to know what it is except just be ourselves and just be who we are? And that is what is going to be represented, that if I'm true to myself, I'm always going to be black. So with that said, these are my friends and brothers and sisters. I'm sweating out here. But I really want to thank you all for being here as well. Really, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. And I think we should do better. I think that if we can start, and you guys we can all be part of this and say we were at the very first Talk Black. You can be very proud of this fact. And then every, 2 months, 3 months? You're going to have to host.
We just passing the mic. So the idea, brother, is that are y'all ready? I know that's right, I see that. But the idea, family, again, this is our opportunity to have an open, honest dialogue, a conversation about talking black and being black, all right? Are y'all ready? With no further delay, family, we're gonna bring up our moderator, because this young brother is amazing, truly an educator, a teacher, becoming a force in this community. And we really appreciate his presence here. And he's going to introduce our panelists, but just want to bring up Dr. Langston. Come on up, my brother.
So I want to thank Brother Show, Brother Ma'at, for inviting me to be here today. I want to thank our panelists for being here. And I think, Brother Ma'at, you did a really good job of setting the context for the conversation. And I also want to add that August is also Black Philanthropy, right? So maybe some ways that I find that in conversation about business, because Black folk have been philanthropists through business ways that oftentimes recognized by the mainstream. So a lot of what you all have done today together, our form of Black library, allowing us, Dr. Grant, own way, librarian as steward of the place, asserting himself as a philanthropist, appreciative of all the work has gone into making it possible. We didn't get a chance to talk before we got started, so I'm gonna let you all know how I'm gonna. I think I can't introduce you better than you can, so I'm gonna say your name. I'm gonna let y'all talk about who you are and what business, and just be mindful. Wow. So, oh yeah, well, my name is Dr. Langston Clark. In addition to being on the faculty at the University of Texas San Antonio, College of Education and Development, College for Health Policy. I host gatherings here in, every last Friday month. Brothers, Black Fellowship, and I also have it's as appropriate. I still conversation. So first we have Brother Carl Booker, where work done and been introduced as already Sister Luana Chambers Lawson, Brother Chris Herring, Sister Dupe Aditi G. Did I say it right? If it wasn't perfect, let me know. Names are very important. Dupe, Adedij. Okay, we getting there. I'm gonna get it for the night is over. I apologize because names are very important. So if you will, we'll start with Brother Carl and we'll go all the way down to Brother Chris, and then you all kind of just give us some context for who you are, what your business is, or what your role is facilitating development of Black experience.
My name is Carl Booker. I'm the founder and CEO of Avista Products. Some of you are aware of our product, the Black Book and Black Life Texas, Black Video News. I consider myself to be a steward and a caterer at the same time. So having these type of events, if you ask me and I'm available, I'll be there. Anytime, you want to talk about African Americans, the opportunities, we are now in Austin and San Antonio. We're learning about Austin, but even to this day, I'm still learning a lot about San Antonio. So anytime, we can, document and complement our community, we want to be there. So if you see me, I'm there, I'm working. I'm there to document, and that's pretty much my role in the community.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Shut It Down. They shut it down. So at the end of the day, my husband started a non-ambulatory transportation company and grew in one day. And people found out who owned that, and that was where our problem started. And eventually we had to shut it down. I mean, it grew real big, but, unfortunately we shut it down in 2016. And I just couldn't stay home. I had to find something to do. And I love fashion. I absolutely love beauty. Anything that is beautiful like that, I'm in. So I go to Nigeria a lot because we have ministry in Nigeria. We have orphanages and we take care of widows and orphans and all that. So we kind of quickly thought, so I just said, you know what, I have all these clothes at home that I'm not doing anything with. So I started the business right afterwards, and it kicked off. I was able to find people that really helped me, like Ms. Dr. Keeley here. I was able to start selling, and some of the proceeds will go to taking care of the 2 orphanages and the 50 children that I had there. So it's San Antonio is a great place. Okay, I love meeting people, and this business gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of people. And one of the things that I feel like I contribute is the fact that I can bring the culture, to this place, the beauty of the culture into this place. I order all my things from Nigeria, so nothing is from China. It's very authentic. I know it's more expensive and all that, but it is real. And also, I love to collaborate. So I try to go and find, Black women that does different things, and I kind of bring them together and we just do stuff. So that's what I do.
My name is LaJuana Chambers Lawson. Most people know me from my company, which is Tacit Growth Strategies. Tacit Growth Strategies has done some pretty amazing things in addition to being one of the early investors in the Jerk Shack. Chef Nicola Black is one of my favorite chefs. So we were early investors there. We also invested in Black Women Lead and brought that here to San Antonio. We had several people that actually got grants from that program. I'm going to let them come forth because a lot of folks didn't want to tell nobody about that, but I'm going to let them stay in the shadows. We also staffed SACAM, so the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum. I was the president and chaired the board for a couple of years in the very beginning before I could hire Deborah Omowale Jarman. She's amazing. But I had to fight so hard to make that happen. So we were staffing, Tacit was staffing SACAM until we could actually get the support that we needed to hire staff. So we, from a philanthropic standpoint, that's what we did for a couple of years there, and it was only sustained because we were able to get government contracts. So we got a contract from Bexar County to help with the felony drug courts, and from that contract, we were able to get other contracts with the state, and so that's what sustained us for a bit there. Recently, I ended up our company got cut out of a major ARPA contract, and I, with Fair Contracting Coalition, of which Mr. Herring will tell you all about. He's one of our chairpersons there. What we did was we were trying to restore that contract. So I met with mayor, I met with several council people, and to no avail, was not able to change that. So we had to lay off several people from the company, and I also decided to work a little bit smarter and not harder. And so now I'm working with the city, District 1, as field director, and trying to do what I can to take care of our small businesses and our community as best as I can in my different capacity. But Tacit in and of itself is running on its own without me. That's a little bit about me and my company.
Well done. I'm Christopher Herring. I'm the president and executive director for Global Chamber San Antonio. I'm retired from the United States Air Force at Randolph Air Force Base back in 2011. I became the president of the Alamo City Black Chamber and had a great opportunity to promote Black business, not only here in San Antonio, but across the state of Texas. I was elected to be the chairman of the Texas Association of African American Chambers, and I did that for 2 back-to-back terms. And I love Black business. I love Black entrepreneurs. I love business in general. And I found that as I came into this city called San Antonio, that there's an interesting divide. There's a divide of the natives and those who came from outside. And as I prepared for today, I said to myself, well, I'm not Black enough to talk Black because, yes, Sister Hinton, because there's such a profound judgment of those who came from outside of the city that for whatever reason, you could break your back, you could do somersaults and be the Simone Biles, but you still aren't good enough. And that's just a reality that I've also faced. But however, by the goodness of God, you keep pushing forward because we all have a mission. And so my mission with Black Business has been very consistent for the time in which I retired from the Air Force and came into the Black Chamber. And I'm looking forward to addressing some of your questions about what that journey looked like. And I'm very glad to be with this panel. This panel does represent people who I've worked with, except for my sister here. But Carl Booker, wow. And I'm glad to see the reunion tour of Sho and Carl. This is great. You don't even know how my heart feels about it. Yeah. There's so many people who are working against us that we need to work together. And I've also been a great appreciator, I don't know if that's even a word, of Africa. So I've been very diligent in trying to do things that would bring Africans to San Antonio. I bought probably the largest delegation of Mandela Washington Fellows to San Antonio, and they actually were able to witness and have a meeting with the mayor, which was Ivy Taylor, in which we brought more Black Africans into the city hall than ever before. And then we also I did it for a decade. I did it without pay. And I like to talk about how, the 2% of San Antonio, which is our population, really needs to have more advocates, people who are willing to go to bat for us. Unfortunately, there's a price to pay with advocacy. And I'm looking in the audience and I see Sister Hinton, whose shoulders that we stand on, and we're thankful and very grateful. And I'm always humbled because whenever we have the MLK March and to take a selfie with you, and she's the first one that can really tell you the story of San Antonio. So I really appreciate you being here. And then I look behind you and I'm looking at Mario Salas. Yeah, you. Yeah. So I didn't even know he was coming tonight. But see, I'm carrying around a book that he wrote, right, back in the day, because I use this as a reference point to what Black business is all about. And he talks about in this book called The San Antonio Register Newspaper, A Secret History of Black America, of Black San Antonio. He talks about many of the things in which we stand on tonight. And so as a former councilman and so forth, this man has also done some tremendous work. He's done some tremendous work to further us, and he continues to fight. And so this is what I'm talking about. It's not just the fact that we've been blessed to be here, but the fact that we have people who are here that have continued to make us better as Black San Antonio people. Thank you so much.
So there was so much in those introductions and the introduction to the entire show that, I have a list of questions for you all. But I'm gonna pivot slightly because it kind of hit me when Sho was up here talking about how when you promoted the panel discussion, that there were people who reached out and said, how come there's no Black folks from San Antonio there, right? And so I think we need to have these difficult conversations more often. And I think it's okay for us to have confrontations, expecting good outcomes from that, right? And just because we say, hey, we need y'all to do a better job here, that's not to shame you, that's an ask for help. And we gotta look at some data and make some real qualified decisions about what are some of the gaps that we have in terms of business, right? And so, Carl, I have a question for you.
We had a pound cake. We had, the chicken. And I often wondered at the time, why we did those things. But in all honesty, I didn't know it. folks didn't have any money. So you brought potato salad,
Yeah.
chicken, pound cake. I mean, you name it. But I didn't think anything of it at the time. It was just go to church, you're going to eat, you know. So our roots go real deep. I mean, the Bell family, the Mack family. Just talking to my mother about her grandmother
Yeah.
and how she was part Indian. But we don't really talk about that because, I mean, you know, my brother, he just doesn't believe there's any Indian roots. But San Antonio has deep Indian roots.
Yeah. So I bring that up just for one, that we have one business owner who is like born here, you know, from here. And Dupe, real quick, how many years have you lived in San Antonio?
28.
28 years. Luana, how many years have you been here? 11. And Chris, how many years you been here? 18. And so it seems like we have all these qualifiers, right? For what makes you worthy of being Black in San Antonio or from San Antonio or authentic. And so I think that some of that, whatever it is, sense of unworthiness is in some ways part of the root of why we don't have sustainable Black ecosystem into what we could be doing here in San Antonio with Black businesses.
All right, Professor, thank you for the question. And it's good. I met this man here only through like LinkedIn, and never had the chance to meet him in person. So this is good. So when I think about the global perspective and how I even landed into Global Chamber was the fact that after I finished up with the Texas Association for African American Chambers, and after spending 4 years advocating for Black business, I wanted to remain in the chamber business. And at that time, there was, and still, when you look at institutions like the Greater San Antonio Chamber, they're not interested in me. And what I'm talking about is like hiring me to do the job of executive director. And so I applied for a position with Global Chamber, and I thought I wasn't qualified enough because if you look at the demographics of San Antonio, you would expect someone that may be from Hispanic culture to be the face for the Global Chamber for San Antonio. But I was selected, and I never had any background in international business. I said I wasn't qualified for that position when I was selected because I was like, you know, a lot of folks who are in the business community, they have deep degrees. I don't have any. I think I have a sociology degree from Boston, all 525 locations around the world. We are on a virtual platform. The platform that we use mostly is Zoom. And so we have topics every single day. Sign into Zoom and they can actually learn something about furthering your business, or learning about AI, or about how to take your product and put it into markets in which you've never ever dreamed of. And so I'm very thankful that not only have I been able to lead the charge since like 2017, but I have people who actually have been members of Global Chamber. Luana has been on our board with Global Chamber San Antonio. I see Dr. Juanita Mercer here, who is a new member of Global Chamber San Antonio. Dr. Keely Petty has been a ride and die with me with Global Chamber. And so Global Chamber has served the interests of Black people in business, but we don't have to necessarily differentiate ourselves as being Blacks in business. We're just people in business in the marketplace. And so that was I guess the transition for me.
And so Dupe, can you kind of talk about how you being from Nigeria have been able to cultivate and maintain those relationships across the continent while doing business here, and how might you see other Black businesses being able to do similar things?
Okay, so the dynamics of doing business the way I do it is really expensive. It is, and it's a long route. but it's a sure one. So, because it's easy to just, like every day, I kid you not, every day, somebody from China or from Turkey is contacting me and telling me, I can get these things to you easily, cheaper than you get it. But the one thing that I try to do is, because I do ministry in Nigeria and here in San Antonio, I'm creating, employment for people in Nigeria and also here as well. And the way that goes is because I buy my materials from 2 people over there. And I have a seamstress, actually 3, that I have right now that sew everything. And I design my clothings, and I have people here that I ask to. For example, if I know someone has an interest in what I do, I ask them, okay, send me different designs that you like. Because I want to be able to sell to all ages, and men and women as well. So I send those, I put them together, create what I want, and send them to the seamstress. And that creates jobs for them, because sometimes they make 200 to 300 pieces of clothing. And then I ship them here after it's done. Now, when it gets here, sometimes I have people that I can call and ask to help me sort them out and put them away. And, I give them something for that. And sometimes, there's one thing that I have really, really always wanted to do, and I think I've done it just once, is I see sometimes young girls that are going to prom and they don't have anything to wear. And I'm always asking people, if you know someone like that, let me know. I can create something for them, but I think I've done it once. I've been asking and asking, and I'm yet to find, anybody been sent to me to do that. So that's the way I do my business. And also I help when someone is, like, for example, getting married, what they're going to wear. I help them put that together, what the bridal train is going to wear and all that, the bridesmaids and all. I put that together for them. I help them design what they're going to wear and, just whatever they need. And I have friends that put parties together, party planners. And, I introduce, because sometimes some people are looking for Nigerians. They want Nigerians that actually know how to put parties together really well. And so I introduce them. And like I said, I love collaboration. I have people that do, women that do hair, that do nails and all that. So I send people to them. So that's how I've been able to, kind of do my business here.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
San Antonio people can actually engage in the global community. So with my membership in Global Chamber and seeing that we have every single continent that's represented in the Global Chamber, we always are able to do business with Africa. We're always able to do business with Asia, Europe, the Americas. And so a part of what I feel like has been, I didn't know it was a legacy, but now that I have reached back, like to Africa, I have reached back to individuals who have been saluted by, President Barack Obama. I'm watching the folks that came to San Antonio a decade ago now are on the world stage. And these are the people who are now calling and saying, hey, I want you to be on Glory Nights. I want you to preach a word, because I'm also one that I believe that ministry and the global chamber work hand in hand. It gives me the ability to have a platform in the stage, but it also gives me the ability to reach back into businesses that want to do more. So we've been able to align tech companies with our tech communities in Austin. We've been able to bring products and services that maybe we have here in San Antonio out into other parts of the world that they never thought, because we don't teach the mindset that when you come into business that you can take your product and bring it outside of Texas. We typically think about Texas. And so I now have a mindset that even though as bad as it is, and I hope that we can get into the bad, as bad as it is for black businesses in this state, there's great opportunity in the world. And when we think about the politics of the world and how they're being talked and preached upon right now by some to say that we should be isolationist in terms of how we view America's borders and how we view America going into these nations around the world. When we think about that, America only is 5 to 6% of the world's population. So why would we want to not be in a part of 94% of the world's population in commerce? I applaud the work that you do. I applaud the work that you do, from being able to go back to your home and to give jobs and to spend money, because that's what it takes. It takes commitment.
So, going back to sort of the undertone of the conversation said at the beginning about how come there's no native San Antonians there, and I think part of that is that there's some age gaps, right? And there have been a lot of successful Black folks in San Antonio in business. You know, we had the first African-American woman to be mayor of top 10 city in terms of population, right? We didn't see her on Ebony or Essence. Like, we didn't see her on the cover of the magazine, you know? I don't remember that magazine cover, you know? It's really interesting how that history could be made and it not be front page in Black news media, right? And I think some of that is related to how we work as an ecosystem, not only among ourselves in San Antonio, but who are we in relationship other Black folks across the country, right? And so, Luana, I want to talk to you about this, because a few years ago you were 40 under 40, right? And you know, as a fellow millennial, I see some interesting things happening from folks in our age cohort. So we talked about this before we got started. So some of you may be familiar with Blavity and Afrotech, right? And so this is a media company founded by Morgan DeBon and some of her friends in college. And so Morgan is the CEO, and she's the one that's sort of leading the way with that, right? And so think of her as our generation's Oprah. And Morgan does this thing where she takes Black founders, and she'll do sessions with them, right? They'll go to like remote locations and she'll just train them up. This is how you do this. This is how you do this. She got a podcast where she explains how do you prepare your business to be sold, right? And so can you talk a little bit about what role you see our elders here in San Antonio that have been successful in business, what role they could play in doing something similar? And talk about the need for that as well.
We need it. One of the things that, when I moved here coming from East Coast. I came out of an ecosystem where we did have elders that were very much invested in you. Like, they knew what made you tick. They, you know, whenever you started a business, even if they didn't really believe in the business, they would still be like your first customer, and they would still come back and buy the $25 shirt, right? The $30 shirt that you print and you can't control it because you can't get the shirt from Ms. Dupé. You know, you getting the shirt from China through Shopify. And you try to make a little profit and they eating at it, you know, because you ain't got the connects, right? But they would still support us. So, I mean, coming out of that environment and then coming here was very difficult for me, because as an entrepreneur, before I had Tacit, I was doing audiobooks. I was doing all sorts of weird, you know, kind of things, trying to do honey wine. I was trying to have a honey wine business because I love honey wine. That's the African in me. Okay, there we go. But I'm West African. We gonna figure that out. Anyway, so it was difficult coming into this space and kind of getting it was a deafening silence, I would say. And it's been a deafening silence outside of meeting Baba Andar, Mr. Herring, you know, Mr. Tommy Calvert, you know, Senior. Like, we have certain people in the community that are very much invested in us and are, you know, directing us and protecting us in a lot of cases. And that is necessary. The other side of the ecosystem that we need are the people who are, institutionally already in place. The ones, we have a lot of people at the city, for example, who institutionally are in place. And they could do a little bit more preaching and reaching out. But they don't. And they choose not to. And I don't understand that part, because when I have a party, I like to invite people to the party. I don't like to be the only person at the party. And I also don't like to be the only one spending money, right? Because I got cousins in Chicago, DC. When I go home, I'm the one that's got to drop about $5,000. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm coming home. They like, oh, you got the Hennessy? No, I don't have the Hennessy. You need to, you know what I'm saying? But that's what happens when you're the only one. So we have it's not a crabs in a barrel. It's not that simple. It's a very, there's a lot of envy, jealousy, a lot of just like straight up nastiness. I get a lot of people, like especially the women that I've dealt with, especially in San Antonio. Dr. Mercer is someone else that can testify to this that I love. I have not had a lot of women here that have been like, I see you, I want to support you. I get women that look at me and they're like, why are you here? But it's for me, it's very different because that's not the culture I grew up in. My culture is the antithesis of that. Like, I would have an elder cuss me out before they would just not talk to me at all. Like, you're going to get some correction. You're going to either get correction or you're going to get some guidance. Something's going to happen. Somebody going to say something to you. But it's like here, like we don't have that sense of like, I'm responsible for you. I need to correct you. Like, you and I need to have a conversation. Let's go meet me at the Starbucks, meet me at the whatever. But we about to have this conversation and you gonna listen. We don't have that, like, I'm gonna call you, care about me. Of course you're not gonna invest in my business.
I will also say, though, and I'm not saying that what I'm about to say is you, but mentees need to show up, right? So we do need both. And I think we have a community of folks who are in our age group who are willing to show up, right? But we need some place to show up to. Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off. So, but I just wanted to like add that in there. Like, we need the mechanism, the landing place that has been established in particular by our elders to say, like, this is our incubator for your business. Or this is how we carve out this space. Look, we're gonna have this meeting. We're gonna invite 5 people. We can't get everybody in right now, but we're gonna start with these 5, and we're gonna raise $50,000. Each one of y'all gonna get 10, and then we're gonna coach you up on how to do this. And your business might fail, but that's part of the game, right? So I think that's something that's definitely needed, and also might help with how we read some folks saying no or maybe being standoffish. Because at some point, we so hurt by it that when we cautious ourselves, you know? So I think you bring up some really good points, and I appreciate you for sharing that. And Carl, when I started this part of the discussion, I talked about how, I didn't see Mayor Ivy Taylor on any like mainstream Black press, right? When she was mayor of San Antonio. And so it's really interesting that when we talk about the integration of the Negro Leagues, it also spurred the integration of mainstream media, right? And so we start to see the decline in local Black media, I think, before we see the decline in local mainstream media. So Carl, can you talk about your role as someone who works in media to not only tell the stories of Black folk, but be an anchor and tell the stories of like Black businesses and support Black businesses here in San Antonio?
What we've done, some of you might be familiar with our first publication. It was called The Juice. This was back in 1999. It was a special time. It was a special moment, actually, because hip hop at the time wasn't what it is now. For some of you that are not aware, never forget, things were going well. We had a club down at Sunset Station, Uptown. and we had the tunnel. Made a lot of money. Me and Show, we did a lot. It kind of introduced the community to what I could do as far as a presentation specialist. But we did flyers, we did videos, we did entertainment, and what I've learned, and I learned it back then, but tried to convince myself it wasn't true. But we love to party as a people. But I also felt like hip hop was so unpredictable that I couldn't predict my future on it, because what ended up happening, there was a shooting at Sunset Station. We went from making all this money to no money. So I learned at that time, not so much not to invest in hip hop, but it was like, man, we can't do that. Because at the time we had all these employees that we had to take care of. It was good to pay people. It really is a blessing to know that you can take care of other people's families. So, it took 20 years, because we're talking, 1999, 2000. It all stopped in 2001. To a year, we're in this holding pattern. And I'm like, let's go to war. So you have to pivot. Talk about pivot. We pivoted in 2001. We pivoted in 2008. We pivoted in 2022, but that's really what a small business does. You have to know how to pivot. You have to adapt, because even what we do now, we're more of a data company than a graphics company, because I'm looking at the data and I'm like, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. So that's what it does now. So, we went from hip hop and the juice to where we have Black Life Tech. We're trying to convince folks this is how you make money, opposed to spending money. And granted, for those that are willing to sacrifice and do the concerts and do the different events, it doesn't matter what it is, it costs money. And these are real gambles. I mean, we gamble on a regular basis. So it's important as a small business owner, that fear factor has to go, completely out the window. One of my favorite shows, and it's the businessman in me, but it's American Greed. Anybody like American? It is amazing that these people raise millions, billions of dollars, and nobody said, "Where are you from?" Or where? I'm about to give you, my life savings and take it and run, And they've done it, whereas for us, man, we have to double check, triple check. I don't believe you. Yes, is this real water? I don't believe you. I'm not buying it. But you can look at our community, and we gotta go through it. Unfortunately, just to prove yourself. Something could be so tangible that you don't believe it. It's unfortunate, but we're doing the work. And understand, and I didn't understand this early on, but for those the millennials and younger, there is no thing as balance. Something has to give. Ain't nothing you can do about it. You got to make a choice. Either you're doing it or you're not doing it. There's no, well, I got to balance, family life. And no. Unfortunately, you haven't heard the horror stories of me and Show. And I'm not proud of it. But we've had a failed marriage. And it's because of the hours, the commitment, the understandings of the spouse. It's tough. And I don't wish it on
Carl,
anybody.
Let me ask this question. Let me ask this question, because I think you bring up an important topic, because I think what me and Luana were talking about was we see folks in our age cohort who are married or maybe early in their marriage, and they're sharing the advice about how you maybe don't have balance, but how you integrate your life in an effective way so that you are good at business and you're good at home. right? And so what
It's not equal.
what you're speaking
It's
to
not equal.
what you're speaking to might be like, who was mentoring you as you were building your brand in media?
It wasn't so much a mentor, but I saw not so much.
The answer was no one. You just said
No,
nobody.
no.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Like
I
the short
couldn't-
answer is nobody.
Yeah, I couldn't.
So the point I'm making is that I think what you're saying is true. Is that there is no. I was sitting at a fireside chat years ago, and there was a woman who's like the most prominent Black education scholar in the country, and she literally said, "There is no balance. There is only integration." And so
That's a good point.
I think when I'm looking at YouTube and I'm listening to podcasts about successful Black folk and how they're able to be successful in business but also maintain their families, it's like they're very intentional about who they pick, right? And maybe because you gotta, you
So Carl's statement about, being in business and going through divorce and all that stuff, yeah, that's my testimony too. So, but I'll say that, being in business is one of the hardest challenges that you could ever take on. When Dupe was talking about how she was in business, but y'all didn't know, we didn't know. I mean, I owned a school for a decade, and I didn't let nobody know, because I knew that as soon as I would let someone know that I own New Horizons School, I have 138 kids, multicultural, mostly white, that as soon as I would let anyone know that, then of course, there's all different types of repercussions for your statement. So silently, my parents thought I was the janitor. They thought I was the groundskeeper. They thought I was a mulch man. They thought I was a swimming, extra on the field trips. And then I had a director who I served because I didn't show my hand that I was the owner. She was in charge. And I did this for a decade until we got to the point to where the city of San Antonio came up with this notion of pre-K for SA, and they encroached in on what was profitable for me and my business, and that's what took me out. But I've also recognized that when I had my spouse, we put our time into our business 24/7, because you have to know how to do your books, you have to know how to work with your customers, you have to know how to finesse. And so that didn't work. So on this go around, hey, I have a fiance. And my fiance is here. She's Teresa. She's the SD Bestie. She was the San Antonio's beauty guru of 2019-2020. And so when we talk about being in business and being Black, sometimes we have conversations about, well, she's Black. But sometimes people don't recognize it because they're looking so much at the color of someone's skin, and they never get to even talk to a person to know the content of one's character and who they are. And so when we look at now, we're doing a podcast called International Beauty and Global Business, and we were talking about Talk Black today. We recognize that there's so many conversations that we need to have that need to open up people's minds, and we need to stop the foolishness. And one piece of the foolishness is that Black women and Black men have been divided in our business. We promote Black women businesses, and then we say, well, that's important, so we need to get on the bandwagon. It's all of our Black businesses are important. And as soon as we get into the divide of a man's business over a woman's business, then we've also taken part into this Willie Lynch syndrome. Thank you. And I just want to say that because, I think that when we talk about millennials and where millennials are, but when I think about where Black people are in business, I recognize that it takes a village, because I remember meeting each of these individuals with the exception of Dupe. I did meet Carl Booker because of The Juice. The Juice was phenomenal. And I was like, I said, what dude did this? I said, look at this paper. So I went to see him. right? And then LJ, she's, in Oprah's magazine. And so when she's talking about, well, I don't know why, I know why people hate on you, because you was in Oprah's magazine. And I'm going to tell it. And I was like, wow, this young lady here must be special. She's been identified outside of this. So I sought after just to meet her, and then finding out she had a book that she had tried to do. And I was like, look, girl, you can do this better, going back to the village. And I said, let's get this book to be a bestseller. So we published, through my publishing company, we published her book, which made her a best-selling author. So it's, again, it takes a village to help and to promote business.
And so I think you answered some questions really well there, right? So you talked about you and your wife doing a podcast, right? That's an example of the integration, right? You talked about Lawana having a book and her publishing through you. That's an example of the ecosystem. Dupe, I think you gave a fantastic example of like global ecosystem, right? And I think what was beautiful about what you said is that I know you have a passion for fashion and you want to make money as a business person, but you're also really investing in other people, right? And so oftentimes I think those of us who are the descendants of slaves here in the United States, people are like, man, Nigerians come here and they just be getting it, right? Or other immigrant groups come here and they just get it. But I think there's a lot that we could learn from like what it means to be someone who is maybe a first generation American. And that's not to say that we're first generation or anything like that, because we built this country. But what I'm saying is that there's some strategies there that work, right? And so there have been people who have said that part of what we should be doing in terms of business and the economy is trying to migrate people out of poverty. Right? And so we think about Black business, right? Black ecosystems as the migration of Black folks out of poverty. I think that there's a different way that we can think about being in an ecosystem, and there's a lot that we can learn from someone like you who's doing it locally and globally. I want to ask this, man, I got two last questions. I don't know if we're gonna have time to get to them before we get to Q&A. So I'm going to combine the questions this way, because I want to know about examples, archetype Black businesses in San Antonio that you all can point to and say, like, that one is like really doing it, right? But I want to add, because I also want to know about Black businesses that have combined, that have made both of those businesses better, and maybe somebody, to use a word from Game of Thrones, took the knee to somebody else to be part of something greater. Right? So is there an archetype of a Black business in San Antonio that has combined with another Black business, and somebody who was the owner and the founder said, you know what, listen, I see that this is gonna make more money for me if I let somebody else take over and lead. I still have my role, but I'm not the lead person anymore.
I'm going to pivot, because y'all know.
The good news is that the answer is that we have several archetypes. And it's one of those things where it's low key. So if you know, you know. And I don't want to I don't want to let anybody out tonight. Like, like if
we ain't supposed to know,
again,
just let us know they're
corrected.
there. We may not supposed to be able to know.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I got corrected a couple of times on this. So I just need to be quiet. But with the San Antonio Women's Hall of Fame, so on that board, that was actually started, the San Antonio Women's Hall of Fame was started by a Black woman, Dr. Joe Floyd. And so several of those, and I'm not going to say too much, several of those businesses, those women that have been inductees over the years, several of them have come together. And there's several consortiums that exist on the healthcare side of the house, as well as finance and insurance. And we do have a few that are in IT that are doing very well till this day. So we have several there, the Women's Hall of Fame, and then we also have a few of the church consortiums that own a lot of property on the east side, of course, and other places. And we've got some property actually in District 1 that I found out about recently that if you have property in District 1, please call me so we can help you out. There's some stuff that's in disrepair that we're trying to work on in District 1, so just let me know. But there's several archetypes that exist, several.
So that's probably one of those things that we had a secret meeting where they choose the 5 young people and teach them how to do it. Okay. We have some time now for questions and answers from the audience. And so if you all have questions that you want to ask the panel or thoughts that you might want to share, now is the time to do it. I don't want to say this. If you're in the audience, you're not a panelist. So we encourage your comments and your question, but don't monopolize because we want to give other people an opportunity to speak, right? So, sometimes you'll go to a session and the person asking a question, they're not speaking to ask their question, they're speaking to say all the information they know before they ask the question. We want to try to avoid that this time because we want to be gracious to other folks who may have some questions that they want to ask, all right? How we want to do the mics for Q&A?
Thank you. It was nice to listen to all of you guys. But I had a question. You mentioned about the challenges of identifying as the business owner. And she has been very secretive about the archetypes of some of the businesses. So I'm wondering if we're talking about mentoring future generations and we don't know what...
Out, not in class, not when you get your license, not when I'm at Phyllis Brown and they're like, yeah, you're at Phyllis Brown and Company. You don't learn it at Phyllis Brown and Company. You learn it when that agent, that's a stellar agent, that's been watching you for 3 years, that you had no idea was watching you, finally reaches out and says, you know what, I'm ready to sit. When can we have coffee? And that's part of it, right? Because the secret, I have always been a bearer of secrets since I was a kid. I get it, because once people know certain things, they will seek to destroy you, and they will find a way to, ruin what it is that you are trying to do. And it's not fair because, sure, publicly you want people to know certain things so that they can tap in. But the reality is that somebody's got to keep the gate. Somebody's got to hold the door. Hold door. Somebody's got to hold the door.
So look. A part of what LaWanna does for the Fair Contracting Coalition, and it's a coalition that was founded by T.C. Calvert Sr. And some of us came together some years ago because we saw that there was an inequity in terms of how our businesses are being treated. Unfortunately, most of us in here suffer from the invisible man syndrome. Like, we're in the room, but that no one sees us. And we also suffer from crabs in the barrel syndrome, which, I'll take you out because I'm envious and jealous of your success. And so, my mentor was Secretary Ronald Harmon Brown, who happened to be the U.S. Secretary of Commerce. And I met him when I was in the Air Force. And he told me to come into the chamber business. And so I kind of fell into line with what his advice was. But, having success that was, in my DNA from people who I've been around, I wanted to tell the story of what, being Black and being in business was all about. I wanted to. But then I found that, at the time, my spouse was like, you're going to put a target on us. Just stay quiet because we need to make this money. We need to make it silently. We don't need to, so I was more of the showy, out there type of character, and she was more the low key person. And then so I learned, and I have to say she was right. Until we became known as the owners of our business, then did people start to say, well, are they qualified to watch all these kids, and are they this and they that? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then we have 2 chambers in this city. So let's not even joke. We don't need 2 chambers in this city for Black people. But we do, and the 2 chambers happened to result because of what? One person didn't like what the other person said in one chamber. I'm gonna form my own. I'm gonna have my own sandbox, and that's how we're gonna play. And in a very stupid way, the community adopted the foolishness. Instead of saying, no, we're gonna make this one chamber better, and we're gonna work through the problems in which we have. And that's our problem as a people. I think the fact that we don't know how to put that was from the city, that was employing people, that had given jobs, and that had created an office front, they were out of a contract. But everyone came after me. And you know what was bad about it? I was in my lonely space. No one came to say, hey, let me help you. No one said, hey, let me give you some money for an attorney. No one said it. So, being sued for $1 million to support your own community, and then to even see the foolishness of a city conspiring with an NAACP to work against me. Oh, so talk black. I'm talking black. Yeah, I'm talking representation of your people. I said it up front, we need to have more advocates. So I see advocates in Carl Booker. I see advocates in Show. I see advocates. But you know what? Our community say, well, he's African. He's not black. Oh, Kamala Harris, she's Indian. She's not black. And so we start to divide our own people. And then, so what? We can't have success if we're never going to agree on some of the fundamental things. That we're one people, right? Under God, indivisible. That's who we are. But we've been divided, and unfortunately, it does come out in how we behave. So I don't even know.
And the other answer to the question is you study. We don't study each other enough. And I think some of the mentors that I found, I knew well about them before they found me. Like, I had already known that they were the top producers. I already knew that they were doing business. They were licensed to do business in Oklahoma, California, Virginia. I knew that already. So by the time they reached out, I was ready for that. I was ready for the conversation. I was ready for the mentorship because I knew who my mentor was. We don't study people. We're very, it's not narcissistic. We're very egotistical. And we don't realize that the ego is in the way of us getting in front and being friends and being in community.
You're not here to just get an education to get a job, but teach them the basics of economics, about finances, about investments, etc. At what point do we get and teach our children? My next, and that was just a statement.
That was a question. I'm gonna let you get this second one, but we gotta let other people get their
Well,
question.
my second one is, I've worked in the area of the small business, teaching the small business, and what I have realized when it came to the black folks that wanna invest in a business, I give them all the information. Here are free classes, free, but they don't want to take track. I need you to give me. That is the biggest issue that we have when it comes to us.
All right. So the questions are, I'm gonna try to mash those two together. So I think it's really like education for the youth, but then how do we have people who are maybe adults be ready to receive education when they're actually ready to be adults and start their businesses? What are you all's thoughts on preparing the next generation and catching the current generation up in terms of their business acumen and education?
All of us, and not just African Americans or black people, everyone lacks business acumen, and I realized it recently because I was seriously. It's a pandemic. It's whatever. So, I was like, let me not be too hyperbolic tonight. But anyway, the issue is that you have to educate people. So you have to, when you start your business, part of that is you got to be willing to have the patience to educate people on how to do business with you. So if you're in professional services, they're not going to know like, oh, okay, you're offering professional development. How do I qualify this as a professional development? Well, I need you to give out certificates when you finish the class. I need you to design the course with modules and give me a lesson plan so that I can submit that with your invoice. Like, if you don't educate people on how to do business with you, you will not get in the door, you will not get the contract. And I think that's part of our problem. Like, when we do work with anything at this point, I tell people all the time, create the job. They're like, oh, we need, new lights, we need new this, new. Okay, that sounds great. Create the job. Why are you trying to do everything in-house? Oh, well, I'm a DIYer. Well, DIY is killing you in your community, and you should stop doing that. You should actually go and hire someone who knows what they're doing and budget for it properly, right? Like, and that's part of the issue, is that from a business acumen standpoint, you have to have people in place that understand that they are creating work for you.
Take programs like that and they'll extend them to the north side, but then they leave the east side, west side, and south side out. And so what you see is you still see that there's a lack of knowledge because there's a lack of programming. And with our school systems the way they are, we're always going to have that shortage because we're not going back. Public education has totally changed. And with that being said, it really requires each of you, and even on a Dream Week stage, to have these conversations about how do our children become the next entrepreneurs and business owners of tomorrow. I think from a historical standpoint, and maybe Dr. Salas would agree, that when we were under Jim Crow and we were segregated, we had a very vibrant business community because we had to rely on each other. We had to do business together. But we were sold the fact that I can send my baby off to college and you can go to an Ivy League school and you can have a white collar executive C-suite position as a vice president of a department, and that's success. And we abandoned the ideal of passing that hotel, passing that grocery store down into our children, and our children never had to own it. They never had to own the opportunity of owning a family-owned business. So therefore, they had to rely upon who? Everybody else. And everyone else didn't hire us because we know that the other thing is that people hire who they look like. So if you don't have someone already in a C-suite who looks like this brother here, all, handsome and everything, who can identify and say, hey, he may come from my hood, right? Look, if we're not there, they're not hiring us in. And
Teaching them like how to do business. How do you see your business doing that, or how have you done that?
So I sell clothes, and I have to sell something that is attractive to the younger people so that when they come in, they ask questions. If you don't create something for them to like or for them to look forward to, they're not going to do anything with it. They have interest in too many other things, and so that is part of what I do to, kind of entice them in and talk to them. And I talk. I have, chairs in my boutique that I sit, and I make sure that everybody that comes in I talk to, find out what is driving you, what do you like, what don't you like, or when they come in and I can't find anything. Okay, what would you like to see? What are the things? What are these young people? They get together. They see one good thing, they call their friends about it. They do. They share it. And when they have a question, when they have a need, they go to you. If you are approachable, they'll approach you. But they're not going to approach you if you're not approachable. If you shut them down, they'll leave you alone. They're not going to come to you. But if you actually are approachable and you answer their questions and you give them all the necessary things that they need, they'll tell others, and other people will show up and ask you too.
So I think in addition to your question, Dupe said something interesting. She learned from them about what they want, people who you want to teach first. Yeah. Next question.
I'm not sure if it's a question, but I definitely wanted to say something. I'm not from here. I have been here for 4 years. I'm from Indiana. I don't have family and I don't have friends. And to back on what LJ said here, it's very segregated. It's very territorial. And you mentioned how your mentors found you, but you already knew about them. But once you try to make yourself known and you try to show up at places, people always look at you funny because you don't look like them, or you're not from here, or they don't know anything about you. You always have to show up with something. I show up with something. I come with my own fire. And I try to make sure that I am approachable. And a lot of times I have to approach people because a lot of people don't talk to you. A lot of people won't introduce themselves to you. They won't even look at you in the room. And I like things like this, and that's why I always tell people I make sure that I show up, because I would have never seen any of you if I had not come here today. My first thought was to go home, but I was like, no, let me go see what they talking about, because I've never heard of this place. I never heard of that movie. Never knew about the juice. None of this stuff. And I only met this lady right here on accident through somebody else that kind of gave me a church hurt kind of experience, but I'm gonna keep that to myself.
Hey.
So it just made me want to draw back and figure out how to do it by myself. But it does take a village, but when you don't know people and you don't have that access.
Provides a platform for us to be able to come out to the community. I've seen Mr. Booker cover so many different events, and he always makes it so that people can know who's doing what.
Hey, this sister from Indiana, you were just thinking my thoughts because I'm a native San Antonio and born and bred here. And when I was younger, I was blessed to be affirmed by the artist community, and having mentors in that realm. Went away, came back. We had KAPE and all that in the black community. It was more centralized then. But coming back home 30 years later, it is so tribal here. It's like if you're not in the fraternity, the sorority, the church, the collaborative, trying to start a business. I started the San Antonio Black International Film Festival. Well, y'all need to come October 4th through 6th. Y'all need to be there. But I've had collaborations with many of the people here in this room, and it's just hard as hell. It's just hard as hell trying to figure out where people are, trying to figure out how to attach to you, how to figure out how to reach them. It seems like there's no leadership here. It's just figureheads, and so there's not even leadership that can support you on a higher level. You don't see them at community events like this. They do their leadership thing and they're gone. So there needs to be, in terms of, we talk about disconnect, there needs to be leaders connecting on the grassroots level, which is basic community forums like this. Talking, coming, being present, and not being in their towers and away from people. So I don't know how to fix that. Carl's did the Black Book, and I know you bring together a hell of a lot of people from different social economic levels, like more than anybody else I've seen in the city. So kudos to you, because you're on the grassroots level and on the upper level. But I don't know if y'all can speak to how, I don't know if there's a way to bring that connection so that there's not a apartheid separation between the cultures, between the business, between the social economic people in different positions. So I don't know if you can speak to that.
I would like to say something. We do a lot of travel. One of the things that, and again, I'm going back to hip hop. If y'all ever heard of DJ Quick when he says, just like Compton? It really is just like Compton. Understand, I met several entertainers, and I've given them the Black Book, whether they're from New York, LA, Chicago. They're saying the same thing you're saying. In particular, Joe Torre was talking about Will Smith has a camp. Eddie Murphy has a camp. Oprah has a camp. What's his name? The guy from Adam Sandler. He has a camp. So you can't go to LA and say, I want to be an actor or an actress and think you're going to make it. You have to fall into a camp. Same thing in Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas. You have to be careful. And I was told this as I do my travels. I'm going to Houston. And I'll never forget, a good friend of mine says, be careful who introduces you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, well, they invited me, so they're going to introduce me. And he says, no. Go and attend, but be careful who you associate with. So I'm thinking it's Houston, and he's like, well, are they from the South Side, or are they from the, they're from the North? So if you don't know, you're going to be like, man, well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you. But understand, it is just like Compton. You have to figure it out. Once you get in there, you're going to say, okay, well, like I grew up off of Marbach. My mother is from Yucca, the east side. So understand, she meets my father in the military. We travel the world, come back. But in the whole time, my grandfather is this very strict holiness, pastor, and We have this long legacy. So you have to figure out, once you land, wherever you land, you got to go within, 1 to 5 mile radius. In marketing and advertising, what we do, typically, we have a 1 to 5 mile radius. Anything outside of, this side of town, we're not going over there where I grew up off of Marbach and Military Drive. But know that there's somebody just like me over there. So we just have to figure out, and for us, we're doing the data. This, I think, should go very well because we're having real conversations. And that's the hard part about, the younger, I guess, Generation X. They're really not interested in business. They want the money, they want the hustle, they want the Uber, they want the, I get paid today if I work today. Whereas, some folks got paid on the 1st and the 15th. And some, come to find out, teachers get paid once a month. So I don't know how that happens, but understand, as an entrepreneur, we don't know if we're getting paid tomorrow, Friday, the week after that, the week after that. So we got risky behavior. So if you're not looking at risky behavior, don't join. You have to decide, am I willing to do the work by any means necessary? You have to figure out, okay, I don't care. What do I need to do? Okay, it ain't working here. We're gonna go over here. But understand the challenge is still there. And for me, I'm excited because I know once you figure out what your special sauce is, everybody's gonna wanna buy it. You just have to know how to get the ingredients. And you don't even know you're missing one ingredient. But once you get it, you're like, man, I got this. Yeah. And that's really, when you think about the young folks, we really have to encourage them because in their mind, they're ready. It's just no one's gave them the ingredients. They didn't know that they can get the materials from Turkey, even though it is coming from Africa. You just got to go get it.
So we have time for one last question. The library closes at 8 o'clock. So we're gonna get this question. We're gonna close it up. Some of y'all can get some cookies, and we're gonna bounce. Okay. Last question.
Thank y'all for giving me this quick opportunity. I'm from New York. I came here, and I really wanted to. I came here to retire and settle.
No, seriously. I think that when we look at the military and the veterans that are here, very rich population, and through my experience, primarily through the Alamo City Black Chamber, I remember we had a number of veteran-owned businesses. In fact, those veteran-owned businesses certify as a Black-owned business or any other type of ethnicity. Because as soon as you do, in this state of Texas, you give the leadership the ability to do what they've been doing, which is to discriminate against us. And the only business category that they respect that they haven't attacked are the veteran-owned businesses. So no, you can't do both. So good question. The way that it works is that with certifications in your business, especially in contracting, it's always race, then it's ethnicity, then it's gender, and then it's whatever, right? So own business and you are a Black veteran-owned business, the veteran is at the very bottom. And so in contracting, they're gonna take your very first certification that means something to the state, which is race. So even though you're a woman-owned business and you're Black, you say, oh, I'm a women-owned business, but yet you're being categorized in the Black. And so I remember my parting shots when I was the chairman of the Texas Association for African American Chambers, and I was meeting with Governor Abbott, and I asked him to speak to the Black business community about what they were going to do, because we were at it was like 1.7% in contracting. And the governor, and I said, that's really a shame that we have like 1.7% statewide contracting. And he said, well, be grateful and that for what you have. And then I said, but it's been declining ever since you've been in office, and now it's less than 1%, less than 1%. And so strategically, they've pinpointed Black-owned businesses, and they've said across the state not to contract with us, right? So, and I said to him, this is like a skim milk situation. I mean, I'd actually be better going to Vegas and putting all my money into the casinos there and making money than getting money in the state of Texas. So, veteran-owned businesses can flourish as long as you don't put a shit with everything else. And then in terms of communication, in Global Chamber, we have our own veterans recognition that we bring veterans on who are in business and talk about that in our newsletter. So that's our communication.
Very quickly. Oh, yeah, we're going to clap, sorry. Tacit Growth Strategies, so we are a Department of Defense skill bridge partner. So what we do is we help other veteran-owned businesses get certified, and we also help them, if they want to come work with us, they can. Most of the time, our folks, they start their own businesses. So we've to date probably helped create about 27 veteran-owned businesses. And that's since we got the MOU with DOD, so that was like, 2022 when we got the MOU? So that's a route, and I always tell our veterans.
And I'm gonna give Brother Show and Brother Ma'at closing words.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Round of applause here for Mr. Langston. Langston. Sorry, look, and we don't say enough of young men like this, and he's a professor, humble. I wish. But anyway, I'm not envious of you. Please stand up again. We have to recognize San Antonio International Black Film Festival. Please stand up and recognize. It's not easy. It's not easy to come up with and that's what we need. Maybe we need your genius as well, right? And we'll celebrate it. And Carl said he didn't have a mentor. That's not true. Councilman then, Mario Salas, used to come and sit down and you guys will speak and you're working on something together. And I used to be so jealous of you guys as well and say, how did he get to know a councilman? But I trumped you because I had Nettie will come to my desk and whisper to me as well. Thank you, Nettie, for being here. Thank you so much. Please, if you do not know who she is, well, I can't tell it. I mean, they say I'm not from here. But please try and get to know her tonight if you have never met her before. This is a treasure. She's but he's a leader to a lot of us in this community. Please, can you just give a quick blessing?
Thank you very much. I won't take long, I promise. And that's not like me. But anyway, I need to say this because this comes up all the time about if you're not from here. I think what people fail to understand is when you have a city or live in a city where the black population is only 7 or 8%, the dynamic is different. If you're coming from Atlanta, where it's huge black population, so what you need to do is stop worrying about that and worry about understanding the dynamic involved in a city with a small black population. If you go on Facebook and you see the history pages that they're doing, you know what they're saying? This is Yucca Street, San Antonio. He started that off. I'm Denver Heights, Texas. I'm Wheatley Courts, Texas. So what they're doing is they're identifying with the small areas that they grew up in. And of course, we can go back to the Civil War because San Antonio had such a small black population right after the Civil War during Reconstruction. When someone would come from another city, there would be an automatic distrust because you ain't from the Denver Heights, you ain't from the Wheatley Courts, you ain't from Yucca Street. Well, who the hell are you? So I understand that. And I think those who are not from here just get used to it, it'll go away. So you've been here too long, you're from here now. So you get adopted pretty quick, right? Pretty quick, 10 years, that's a long, anyway. But understand that's the reason why. It's not that people here hate you, it's that they have I'll say it real quick, this is the best way to understand it. One time somebody told me, who came from Chicago, said, I ain't been here but a couple of months, and I done ran into 3 or 4 girlfriends you had in this one city. I done dated 20 guys in Chicago, and I never run into them again. So the separation, 9 degrees of separation, there ain't no 9 degrees of separation here. It's about 1 or 2. Thank you very much.
Mario. Bill, I've known Bill for like 15, 16 years or so. It took us 2 years to understand each other, though. We're both speaking English. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. Really, thank you. Can we do this? How often do you think we should do this? Talk Black. Quarterly? Okay, so and the next one will be, quarterly will be what? November? No, December? November? And what's the topic? What should we choose? What should we have? What's pressing? Colorism? You're not from here? What can we talk about? Election, but so we do one before the election? But if you haven't registered, when is it actually, Mario, when is it cutoff for registration? That's really what we need to push for, really. Right? Black excellence. Oh, please recognize Keely Petty. Keely, please stand up. I have to say this because we talk about being welcomed in a community, and Keely came over to me and said, "How much will it be to create a website for me?" And she didn't even know that she was my first client in San Antonio. Remember that? Many years ago. And the good thing is that we've both grown and she can still afford me. Right, no, but what's the next subject? What's the next thing?
The West Indian connection.
Yeah, there are a lot of a lot of you kind of people here. Maybe we can have a Pan-African? You think? No, not a lot of love on that one. What about the bougie ghetto divide?
Now, what we're going to do, we're not going to decide tonight. Listen, family. This has been a great conversation, a great dialogue. But we're not going to decide tonight what we're going to talk about next. Maybe y'all can just send us an email, all right? But at this time, we're going to march up out of here. Because the library is closing, family. So let's give a hand. Let's go.